Hello Internet, welcome back to the Tower of Purgatory. I'm Max7238. Before I get started, I just want to say that the start of this episode is probably going to be me trying to get better weapons and grinding out the 2 floors that I've got a little bit. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of talking about a game that came out recently, and not only that, but the way it relates to Rengoku here. And just bringing up a little bit more of the philosophical points that this game likes to explore without explicitly talking about. So, by now the entire internet knows about Frictional games. They're the ones that made Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and I think the one previously was called Penumbra, if I'm not mistaken. I probably am. But, you know, the bottom line is that they have a very distinct style of game that they like to create. And it's really plodding and slow, but at the same time, they like to have some interesting elements in there, at the very least in their environment design and the way things look, if not also in character and in scenario. I never actually played either of their games for myself, sadly. Didn't really get the opportunity. Not that that's heartbreaking to me, but one of their games that they've just recently released, Soma, deals with a lot of the same questions that this game deals with, although Soma's much more direct about it. Namely, for example, what is human? If you have an AI, can that AI be human? If there's a copy of you, if there are iterations of you, which iteration, quote-unquote, deserves to move on? Are you comfortable with there being more than one of you? Does having more than one of you existing take away from your own individuality or your own uniqueness? And I will admit, right from the get-go, I don't really understand a lot of people's problem with that. I don't understand the big conversation that goes on behind that, and it's largely because of the amount of time that I spent on this game. I don't see why it is that an artificial intelligence cannot be respected as a human being, or why a human being can't be respected as a human being being placed in a robotic body. I realize that a lot of people like to define part of humanity as mortality, the ability to die, to live and die. And I think there's more to humanity than that. And while I'm sure that some people would resent there being some life form that had their own intelligence, their own level of intelligence, and was somehow superior to them, I realize that a lot of times in different movies and other scenarios, those are the kind of things that we make into monsters. These things that have surpassed us. But I don't see it that way. I really don't agree with that point of view. And I will try to explain why in the context of this game. I don't think this game, Rengoku 1 in particular, hints at there being humans used to create these robots, but it does talk a lot about individuality, and you can start to see that with the first 2 bosses that I've defeated here. The one was just, you know, completely bland and uncharacterized, and he had no individuality whatsoever. He was just following his quote-unquote orders, his directive, and fulfilling his purpose without thinking or asking any questions, and that was that. That's Mars. Mars doesn't ask any questions. He just does. And he's always like that, to spoil a little bit. But the next boss doesn't say anything. Nothing at all. And I'm not going to spoil the bosses hereafter. But along with the main character and the example of these 2 enemies, you see that each of these robots is different. Now, in the beginning of the game, like the opening cutscene to the story, you can see that your character is just like everybody else. When he dies, he loses his memories. Like, the opening cutscene is his memory flashing before his eyes as it's being erased. And so you have to assume that every enemy that you face is in the same position as you. Sort of. These guys are all have the same potential as you. You'll end up fighting enemies that are just as powerful as you are. if not more powerful, as you go further on. And, you know, I would hope so, because otherwise this game would be pretty boring. There would be no challenge to it if these enemies just all stayed at this lower level. But as you go higher up, as you would probably assume, the enemies get more powerful. Is that because it's good game design? Well, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to have a game where the enemies all stayed at base level and you got more powerful. That would kind of suck. But that game design is meant to pull you into the world. The enemies that you're facing higher up in the tower fought their way up there just like you did. The enemies that are more powerful because they overcame as many challenges as you have. It's like, there's a popular example, Dark Souls. Everybody in the world that you see, everybody in the world that you face has the curse just like you, and they're a hollow. And if you die, you lose humanity just like everyone else. You can lose memories just like everyone else. And the whole game design, all of the mechanics and everything are all meant to pull you into that narrative. And this game does a good job of that on a much more base level, sadly. You know, again, it doesn't really have the greatest of budgets. It didn't really get the greatest of attention. But this game does that. And it's one of the reasons why I would actually prefer that people actually play this game for themselves than, you know, watch me, but at the same time, I realized that playing this game for the first time with no context and no older brother to compete with for motivation, it is kind of a bland game. Like, I'm willing to admit that what I like is not something that everyone's going to like. I'm willing to admit that what I like is flawed. I'm okay with that. It's the honest truth, and as much as it pains me to say it, I can't deny it. I would be a fool to deny it. Oh, there we go. We got some leg armor there. A little bit better luck this time around. So, to get back to the whole, like, tie-in to Soma here, again, without spoiling any of the plot of Soma or this game, there are several points where in Soma you're faced with this choice of, do you pull the plug on this person, or, you know, this device? Is this consciousness you're interacting with actually human? Is it merciful to end it? You know, they really try to pull on the moral strings, but after everything that I've seen so far, not a single one of those choices has been anything but black or white. I don't see the dilemma, I don't see the argument. And it's because of this game. Because as this character moves on and goes from an artificial intelligence, just like all these mindless enemies I'm killing right now, even though he goes from being just like everybody else, in the end... Oh jeez. Overheated, give me a sec. I realize that's loud, so I don't want to try to talk over it. He goes from being just like everybody else. The one difference is that he's starting to ask the big questions. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Who put us here? Why should we stay here? You know, why should we advance? Why not just sit at the bottom of the tower? If we're always going to be sent back to the bottom of the tower when we lose, what's the point of fighting at all? You know, all these things that anybody in this position would ask. But yet, these other androids don't seem to ask. Nope, none of these androids are stopping to talk to me. The only people that actually bother to talk to me are the bosses. And that's right before they just like Mars said, disengage communication and start combat. It's the whole purpose of their being, and they never once go against it or question it. In Soma, it's a different story, and in Rengoku 2, it's a different story. Things question more often. And asking those questions is what's important. Bit of a trick there. Once you've actually cleared a room, you can just back out and go back in, and it's empty. I don't know. I mean, I never saw the whole dilemma with artificial intelligence and everything. This game actually sparked a long-running meme with me, which is the idea of becoming an android, of being immortal. And I mean, there's movies like Interstellar, as another recent one, where they deal with the idea of outliving your relatives. They deal with the idea of immortality. There's books, a whole, like, there's many book series, but to point one out in particular is, like, the Night Ninja Trilogy by Brent. You know, that book series deals with immortality. And from this game onward through all of my experiences, I have yet to understand what people have a problem with outliving their relatives, outliving their loved ones. A husband outliving his wife, for example. I don't even get that. I don't see the problem. You know, it's that thing, that cliche, better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. This is largely what it is to me. I would rather be an android and be able to live for all that time and to continue to make an impact on the world. Like, I want to be a teacher. You know, I'm not here to be grandiose. I would rather stay alive and make some small impact on the world for the, you know, for the rest of eternity till Judgment Day or whatever happens, than just die. And I realize that to some people that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I want that for myself? What about that is appealing? Have I really, you know, thought about the whole thing? And yeah, I have. I've been forced to, actually, because of games like this, or because of situations that I've run into, or my own ideas. I don't know. I think when it boils down to it, what I consider human and what a lot of people might consider human is very different. I don't know if that's through fault of my own, you know, my own thought processes, or if that's for another reason entirely. I really couldn't say. And I don't know if my point of view is flawed, per se. Just that it seems to be different than what I hear from a lot of people. I think Bicentennial Man said it best. If you've ever seen Bicentennial Man, if not, I highly recommend that, just like anything else that I've mentioned here. If you haven't seen Bicentennial Man, it's a Robin Williams movie, and it basically deals with, you know, an android becoming human, becoming recognized as human even. You know, that's what he fights for throughout the whole movie. Whether or not he gets it, I'm not going to say, because it's a very good movie. But in the end, it basically boils down to he starts making artificial organs for himself to be more like a human, to be able to eat, or, you know, even quote-unquote reproduce without reproducing. You know, he goes through all these lengths and he invents all these amazing things, and nobody appreciates it. You know, he even goes before a court, and there's an old man presiding over the court, and the Bicentennial Man, the main character, says to the judge, "You have one of my artificial kidneys, or you have one of my artificial organs in you. You had a transplant, so you're part robot." Well, I have all of these organs and I'm not organic, but something inside of me is part human. And why can't I be part human? Why can't I be recognized as human just like you're recognized as human, even though you're part android? Like, that's kind of my take on the argument, is I don't see any problem with acknowledging the humanity of an android that has gained individuality and is able to, you know, to bring up big questions, to philosophize, to, you know, have some kind of advanced educational thought, or to create. I don't see the problem with it. Maybe that's just me. Let's give this boss another crack. After that, I should be able to end the episode. I do apologize for the whole grinding thing. Ordinarily I would probably do that, like, off camera, but again, this is I'm trying to make this kind of a walkthrough while at the same time making this a commentary on the game and a review, like, all rolled into one. So I just kind of wanted to show off the drop tables, I guess. Not sure how useful it'll be. Yeah, I overheated my legs like an idiot. I didn't think the bow gun would work, I just wanted to at least give it a shot. I don't really like the bow guns that much. They have travel time. I mean, they're powerful. It's just not powerful enough. So we'll start with the handgun. Yeah, let's go Mars on this guy. How about that? Let's give that a try. I'm not gonna need ammo where I'm going, so I'm just gonna keep these repair systems on. Actually managed to get some. They were helping, it's just once you can't dodge, you can't dodge. And he is very, very strong. Oh boy, here we go again. Get out of here. Beam shield. Oh, so that must have been what was on his arm. Okay. Well. That was, I don't know, I'm doing pretty horrible this time around. This is probably one of my worst playthroughs, to be perfectly honest. Was it? Yeah, totally what was on his arm. And actually, you might recognize that if you've seen the opening cutscene as being the base form of the main character's right arm. I don't care much for shields. Actually, I'm going to throw my bullet weapons back on, because now that I'm going to be fighting enemies again, I will be able to make some progress. Also, I think you just heard my dog whining. I just realized he did that. I kind of tend to tune him out a little bit when he's whining for no reason, so sorry about that. It is at the tail end of the episode, so it didn't really interrupt anything. Hopefully he doesn't do it again. Anyway, I'm gonna head into the next part. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you at least enjoyed a little bit of the odd commentary. If you agree or disagree with me, I mean, I'm not gonna say like, oh, put it in the comments, inflate my comment, but I mean, you know, if you're really interested in having the conversation, there's a private messaging system on YouTube. Like, I'm not here to pander or to get views or likes or anything. I'm just here to get these games out there, like I said. So, I'm gonna head into the next part. Thanks for watching. See you next time.